All right, guys, got a pretty awesome story. Had an amazing summer, amazing last couple of years, and it all started about 8 years ago when a youth pastor called me up and asked if I could sponsor a youth to go to youth camp. Thinking back on my own life, when I was a teenager, went to youth camp. It was pretty awesome, canoeing up in the boundary waters of Minnesota. I said, man, youth camp's so powerful for everyone. Every kid deserves a chance to go. And I said, yeah, I'll sponsor a kid. It'll be good. Well, all day long it ate me up inside that I was like, man, if there's one kid, I wonder how many other kids need to go to camp, and everyone deserves to go. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Finally, I was like, gotta call John Russo back, just see how many other kids there are. I said, I'd be willing to sponsor up to 10 kids probably. And I said, but no more, $199 a kid, it's out of my budget. So I called John, waited, and John says, there's 10 other kids that need to go. And I said, that's fine, I'll sponsor 10 kids to go to camp, with one exception. I want to go, I want to see what happens at the Rock Church's youth camp. So we go, and it was an absolutely amazing week. Seeing these teenage kids just on fire for the Lord, kids getting saved. Well, first day of the camp, I see these kids walk in. I'm pretty sure they were either Bloods or Crips. I don't know how to tell the difference between the two, but these are some tough kids, and 7 of them were real tough. And I was security, whatever that means at youth camp. So watching these kids the first day of camp, arms crossed, mean mugging everyone in the crowd. And I was like, man, I'm going to have to bring these kids down to Chinatown if they try acting up or something. I just kept watching them. Day 1, day 2, they kind of got a little more relaxed. Day 3, I see a guy mouthing some songs. He was singing along. And day 4, I just see hearts broken, hands in the air, and they gave their life to Christ. And I was so blown away that I had the opportunity to give, to sow into these young people's lives, and that my money was directly affected to helping save salvations. I sat back in the last section of church of the service that night. And I don't know what happened, but my face started to leak, and I just sat there. Pastor Jeff walks up to me, and he says, what are you thinking right now? I said, I'm going to own a youth camp one day. We're doing this. And he got talking, well, it's just pole buildings and I just knew one day we were going to do that. 2008 was not the time for me to try to start any kind of youth camp, but my heart was there. For the next 8 years, I went to every camp, volunteered, led some small groups. I just tried getting plugged into summer camp as much as I could, and my wife got involved as a youth camp doc. It was awesome, and selfishly, I went because I like to see salvation, and it's powerful. Folks, if you haven't done it, you need to get plugged in. Every year I told Kat and Terrell, I said, 1 year I'm going to own a camp. We're going to do this. I'm going to make it more affordable for kids to go to camp. It's on my heart. We just need more of this good that happens at youth camp. It almost became a joke that they would finish the sentence, yes, Jason, we know that one day you're going to own a camp. And didn't have a real solid plan in place, but I actually had some stuff sketched out. February 12th, I woke up at 3:15 in the morning, and I had this real anxious feeling that I needed to pray for my friend. This is a friend that you don't really think of and pray for very often. I know as Christians we're supposed to, but you don't really connect him with the church. And I just had this anxious feeling, you need to pray for Jason. You need to pray for Jason. You need to call Jason right now and tell him that you love him and you're praying for him. And I'm like, God, it's 3:15 in the morning. Jason used to be part of like the Hells Angels or something. I mean, he is a tough dude. I'm certainly not calling him at 3:15 in the morning, because he will come here, kick my butt, and probably steal my wife. It ain't happening, God. And I just kept feeling that tug. And finally I was like, all right, Lord, you have the power to change words before they hit someone's ears. You can certainly delay this text message, like you do all my other text messages, and send it to him at like 9 o'clock in the morning when I get to work. So I shoot him a text. Hey brother, don't know what's going on. Just want to let you know that I love you and I'm praying for you. Sent, delivered, read. It was that fast. And I'm like, oh crap. looking out the window all night, wondering, how did that text come out of my house? I live in the middle of nowhere. How did that text get sent that fast? And I'm looking out the window because I'm expecting a Harley gang to come riding out and rip me out of my bedroom. Didn't hear from him. That was a Tuesday night. Didn't hear from him Tuesday. Didn't hear from him Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, I hear from him and he says, dude, I have no idea how you knew what was going on. But that night I lost $8,000 at the casino. Came home, told my wife she was gonna leave me. And I was sitting on my bed with a shotgun and I was fixing to dust myself. Your text couldn't have come a second later. And he said, I'm done trying to do things my way. How do I get into your Christian group? I said, well, it's not a group, man. More than welcome to invite you to our church. Pastor Bill's actually speaking on Sunday. He's a veteran. You're a big part of a veterans organization. You'll love him. Everyone loves Pastor Bill. I said, but for now, let's do the salvation prayer and let me pray for you. And, just try loving on him. And I hang up and I'm just crushed. Like, wow, God used me. God actually used me, and I listened for once. I passed a baby test. So my wife was invited to come to this church service with a traveling evangelist by one of her patients. And we didn't really want to go. We're really well connected to our church, but it meant a lot to this lady. So my wife agreed to go. It was the following Friday at 5 o'clock. We had to be there. Okay. So I go in my garage and I do what every good Christian does after they're used by God and start working on my beaver trap. And I'm sitting there working on this trap with a screwdriver and I shove it through my hand. First thing out of my mouth is, "Ah!" I yell out to my wife. I said, we're not going to that new church. We agree to go, and I'm watching my fingers swell up. I see my wedding ring slowly disappearing. Didn't want to tell my wife that because she'd want to cut it off, and I figured we were going to be all right. Go to the service, and it is 2 hours of the worst preaching I've ever heard. It's like every bad Christian bumper sticker, one after another after another. And I'm sitting there like, God, why are we here? Like, I know you want me to be here, but this is retarded. Like, I don't even know why I'm here. At the end, I start wrangling the kids and they say, if there's anyone here who needs healing, come to the front. And I was like, this is it. Ooh, it's not the best thing to do after you shove a screwdriver through your hand. Go up to the front. There's a 15-year-old kid up there praying for people for healing. He puts a couple fingers on my hand and, Lord, please bless this man's hand, help heal him, amen. He said, well, what's your pain level now? I said, it's still about a 7 out of 10. He's like, well, what happened? I said, I shoved a screwdriver through it. I said, when? About 2.5 hours ago. His eyes got all big. Why aren't you at the hospital? I said, I don't know, God called me here. And he prays again. He said, what's your pain level? It's still a 7. He's like, well, what does that feel like? And I said, well, it feels like if you put a third finger on my hand, I want to puke all over your pulpit. And he puts his hand on my shoulder, starts praying again. And he's like, well, I'm sorry it didn't work. I said, well, I don't want you to lose faith. I think God's just trying to teach me to be more careful with a screwdriver. We all laugh, and I try wrangling the kids because we're going to the hospital at this point. Well, the pastor comes up and says, I have a word from God for you and your wife. And my first reaction is, oh man, if it's anything like you're preaching, it's probably going to suck. But we sit down and listen, and he says, well, I can already tell you're reluctant to hear what I'm about to say. So he's looking at my wife, and I'm like, man, if you think she's reluctant, you have no clue how reluctant I am right now. And he says, first off, you make this much money per year. I was like, well, sounds about right. And you have 4 sources of income. I said, nope, you're wrong. That's not us. This is not the word for me. And I stopped him. And my wife nudges me and says, well, don't forget about your veterans pay. And I was like, well, it ain't much, but technically, I guess that's 4. And he goes on and he says a lot more descriptive stuff. Basically read our mail, told us everything we needed to know, stuff that nobody would know. And then he says, the most important thing is you don't have enough property for your horses. And I was taken back because I was like, whoa. The week prior, we lost the place where we were boarding our horses. And we had him at our house, and I was like, how did he know that? I'm not boots and buckled up. I don't have a big cowboy hat on. I don't think I smell like horse poop. And it's just like, man, this might be the real deal here. And I'm just trying to process. And he says, you don't have enough land for your horses if you're gonna start a youth camp with micro cabins. And I was blown away. Micro cabins was in my business plan for the camp 8 years ago. The whole title for it and everything. Guy know that, and the patient that invited us had no clue that this is our dream. He says, you don't have enough property for your horses if you're going to start a youth camp and bring both physical and spiritual healing to the next generation. This camp is going to save thousands of souls and bring tremendous healing to the next generation. This world needs that. He said, many people are going to come alongside you. You're not going to be able to do this on your own. He turns to my wife and he says, you have anointed hands. God wants you to know that he has personally anointed them to heal the sick and weary. And the spiritually dry. You're going to heal people in unique ways, maybe even natural ways that others think are odd or strange. You just need to trust your instincts, because they're not your instincts. God is with you, and he has anointed you. Well, at that point, I kind of chippered up and said, have you met my wife, Dr. McQuinn? And then he turns to my son and he says, you have a defender's heart, don't you? You know, Connor sits up and just fun-loving 8-year-old. And he says, you have a defender's heart, and if you stay in the Word, you will be the next Tim Tebow. He didn't know who Tim Tebow was, so we later told him. Turns to each one of our girls and he says, Kimber, you're the artist, and you're going to accomplish great things. And he turns to Matt and he says, you have an angelic voice, and you should practice singing, because you're going to go a long ways in a singing career. We go home and I'm just like, did that really happen? And I'm scratching my head, and my hand all of a sudden isn't that big of a deal. And I was just blown away that, like, I've always heard of prophets, and I've heard, like, maybe they touch the surface of a couple things, but this guy he nailed it. And there's no way he could have known most of that stuff. So that night, I go to sleep, wake up at 3:50 in the morning, and I don't know what it is about that time. I wish it was 3:16, because then it would be cool, but it's not. It was 3:50. And I wake up and have a dream that I was driving down this awkwardly straight driveway. And at the end of it, there's a wooden archway, and there's a squeaky sign underneath that said, this place, with a lowercase t, capital H, is place. And I wake up, and I'm like, that's perfect. Our camp is going to be called This Place, his place under the cross, for the youth camps and for the church camps and for the medical camps. Oh, we just got this place we'll send you to for wellness retreats, for weight loss, detox, all the health stuff. So I take a picture of the inside of my room, and I just learned to edit photos on my camera, and I wrote this place, and I sent it to Pastor Terrell and my wife, 3:50 in the morning. Both of them later informed me that is not the time to send text messages. But I was just so excited. Yeah, sent it up. So that was Friday night. Saturday night, my wife and I go to that Rock and Road show tour, and we're sitting there. And first off, I didn't know there was that many Christians in Seattle, so I was pretty happy to see that. And we're just sitting there, and everyone's worshiping. And I'm like, why do we do this inside? Like, more people need to see this. This is awesome. Like, there's not enough of this that happens outside that non-Christians can see us doing. It'd be better for them to see this than see the crazy guy in the corner with the sign that says, you're going to hell. So I'm just taking it all in, and I'm like, our camp needs to have an outdoor amphitheater. And I'm going to name it Secondhand Salvations, so that everyone up and down the river can hear the awesome music that happens at camp. Sunday, Jason comes to church, gets saved, do the prayer over him, and that guy's just on fire for the Lord. keep saying, I have no idea how you guys do this, what you do. How you guys know just the right time to call. There's something different about you and Pastor Bill. And I was like, man, that's the Holy Spirit. When they tell us to move, we move. So for the next 5 weeks, I come over to Newport, and I was feeling called to the Newport area. Of all things, a drunk guy at a mule training class walked up to me about a year ago. Out of the blue, walked up to me, pokes me in the chest, says, you don't belong in Western Washington. You need to move to Newport. And he walked away. I was like, I wonder if that was one of those prophetic words from a drunk guy. I don't know if it's biblical or not, but I started looking at Newport. I'm like, serious, awesome. They got deer, they got turkey, it's beautiful, there's a river, there's all this good stuff. Man, that sure is a cool place. So, naturally, when I'm looking for a camp, I start looking in the Newport area because the drunk guy told me to. I'm looking at this property and that property, and it's just the kind of places you pull over on the side of the road and you look at it and like, that's not going to work. Pull over the next place, just like, it looked great on the MLS, doesn't look good in person. And finally, my wife and I were able to drive over together. We got sitters for the weekend. We wrote out all of our minimum goals. We need a place at least with water on it. Maybe something that I could dig out and make a pool, or there's got to be a house with septic and power, and we were thinking so small. And we made the trek together, prayed the whole way over, radio off, and we had 7 or 8 MLS listings, and first place, next place, they were all junk. Finally, I found myself driving up on this mountain road, and we're pulling the horse trailer, and we've come to an active rock blasting zone. So there was this cool property on the other side of it, but I was like, man, youth camp's supposed to be a blast, but I don't think it's supposed to be like a rock blasting zone kind of environment. And no middle school mom's gonna want to drop their kid off 3 miles after the active rock blast. And I'm sitting there looking at the map, and I said, there's gotta be a different way around here, because no one's gonna build this big, beautiful house just past the rock blasting zone. So we drive around, start looking at the map, drive around, and we're sitting out on Leclerc Road, right where Leclerc and Bear Paw meet. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, Bear Paw goes up the mountain, but it dead ends after a couple hundred yards. This is crazy. We're sitting there looking, and all of a sudden my wife says, what's Camp Bear Paw? I'm like, what are you talking about? And she points over, and there's a little cloth sign that says Camp Bear Paw. I'm like, that's weird. Camp Bear Paw didn't pop up on my online market analysis where I checked out all the camps in the area before we got zoned in over here. And I'm like, I don't know, let's go check it out. And she's like, Jason, we can't just go, that's trespassing. And I said, oh, it's only trespassing that they prosecute, let's go. And she's like, well, we got the horse trailer, and we can't just, what if you can't turn it around? Challenge accepted, let's go. Well, we start driving, and she's over there on her iPhone just clicking away, making sure it's not like a white supremacy camp or something crazy. We start driving down this awkwardly straight driveway, and I said, we've been here before. And she's like, no, we haven't. I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure we've been here. She's like, no, the only other place on this road we've been is the creepy fish farm down the way that we were not going to do a camp at. And I was like, man, I swear. And halfway down the road, I look up and I said, Beth, we have been here before. And she's reading off the main page of Bear Paw, or Camp Bear Paw. And she's like, Jason, this camp is ran by His Place Church. And I was like, are you serious? I didn't know there was a His Place Church. And we come pulling in under this wooden archway with a squeaky sign that says Camp Bear Paw. And I'm like, this is it. And she punches me, and she's all excited. She says, I know, this is it, your dream. She punches me again, Jason, your dream. Well, for those of you that know my wife, she doesn't get real riled up about anything. I was like, I know, Beth, it was my dream. I remember. We come pulling in, and I'm not the kind of guy that gets, real boisterous or declaring or of anything. And I said, Beth, I think this is going to be our home. This is where we're going to be. This is going to be the camp that we're stewards of for a while. And we come pulling in, and I turn the trailer around right away just to prove to my bride that I still got it. And we pull in, and I'm like, what do we do now? Like, we got nothing scheduled or nothing, like, so we walk up, we look over, and I'm like, Beth, this is on the river. Like, we were contemplating digging a hole for swimming. This is on like a beautiful river, and micro cabins everywhere. There's like 20 of them. And the hosts, Danny and Lady, came out, and they say, are you guys here for your tour? And I was like, are you serious? This just keeps getting crazier and crazier. So, yeah, we're here for our tour. And Beth elbows me. She goes, you're so bad. I know. And they gave us a beautiful tour of the place. And they said, well, you're not here for a tour, are you? Because you're not asking all the right stuff. What's going on? And I said, well, as crazy as this seems, here's my story. Blah. And I just shared everything. And Danny starts crying. And he says, nobody knows this outside of our organization, but we have until August 1st to make a larger balloon payment, or we're at risk of losing the camp. The man who owns the title to the camp, his son works for an RV park or dealership or something like that. And if we go into default, the son really wants his camp to be used, for the RV park. So we tell Danny that obviously we'd be interested. We don't know what the price tag on something like this is. It wasn't listed for sale. There's too many coincidences just to ignore. Calls me back. Pretty much by the end of the first conversation, we both agreed. God is in this. God wants to save Camp Bear Paw, and I'm just putty in his hands. Let's go. So fast forward to the next weekend, me and Mike Thompson make the trek over. We meet with Bob Savota, the owner, and Doug, pastor at his place church. Everyone's in agreement that our visions line up. We start going down the path of us being able to take over the camp. Well, there's still the issue of the balloon payment. We applied with Wells Fargo. We've been members there forever. And they actually denied our loan. We were like, how could you not deny us? We have really good credit. We don't have a lot of debt. We have an okay income. And we're asking for not a ton of money. And lo and behold, I got a mortgage broker that really didn't want us to buy the camp. And he kept coming up with all these excuses that, well, you're going to have to hire caretakers and insurance and this and that and that. And I said, yeah, but the camp will also bring in enough money to pay for that. I just want to bless the camp so that they don't get turned into an RV dealer. So we go round and round. After putting in an offer, we were on the 40th day. Wells Fargo finally denied us. And I threw up my hands. I went out on the back porch of my house and did one of those good yelling at God, where it's just like, God, I tried. Nobody else would have done this. I tried. If you really want it, you're going to have to make a way. I'm done. Next morning, I wake up to an email from Bob Savota that says, hey, Jason, I've talked to my accountant, and they suggested that I continue to allow you to make payments, but you need to get me caught up. So I'd be happy to extend you a loan. Well, I called Bob and I say, yeah, maybe. What's the interest rate? 3%. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I've just been begging and fighting with Wells Fargo to get 5%, and this guy's gonna do 3%? Oh, and he follows it up with, and I'm more than likely gonna donate that back to the camp like I've done in the past. And I'm like, oh, God, you are so in this. You want us to have this. So lo and behold, I also applied with Umpqua Bank, and they approved us on the spot for the balloon payment. And yeah, long story short, the camp closed, and the camps are still running all year. His place church is going to continue to monitor it next year, or manage it for 2019. And that's my story.